I got myself unmuted before Wax the Carrot, fortunately.
Oh, but you got my dancing. There we go.
Your dancing was shown because I removed the top screen and had you dancing. So I mean,
but was my
probably a little bit of it, just the back end.
Okay.
Anyway, welcome to Madness of the Land, where we are also actually mad, so it's fine. It works out very well.
I thought I was mad.
We're all crazy. Welcome to the world of crazy.
You're mads.
Oh,
You're plural.
It just completely went over Tantus's head.
Yeah,
It's alright.
I got it right away.
I am just. Woo.
Hey, look, Knockrid's back.
Quiet, you. Just because only one
tonight's gonna be interesting.
One character's correct. Anyway, yes, Tiv's not feeling good, so he's not joining us today. But as usual, I have Mads, Joe, and Unfunny One joining me for some adventures. Why don't we dive into it?
Or misadventures.
Last
More
episode.
apt.
Yes, that's true. So last week, the group met with the Troog. The primitive lizard folk type creatures were reptilian humanoids, and managed to
Killed them all.
Managed to
No, we
not
killed them all.
No, you managed not to kill them all, and you managed to sort of maybe make friends with them, but maybe not because it's really hard to understand because they're like, well, dumb.
Did we collect them all though?
I mean, no. We straight up killed them all, and they each had a ring of wishing on them, and we got like 17 of them.
And after that,
No.
but the problem is you went through 16 wishes, and the last one is like, let's just go back to start. So you literally went back to right when you started that game.
Yeah.
I wish for more wishes.
Guys, that's why it says that.
It's like you should be careful what you wish for. But since you already had all used up those wishes, just because you time travels doesn't mean the wishes weren't gone then. Because they didn't know how to use the wishes.
I wish for more wishes.
That's getting convoluted.
That's way too convoluted. It sounds like the plot of a TV show. Anyway, you left the caves. You found yourself in a land that seems to be a completely different area than where you were before. A large area of fields. There's a tower in the center of it. Some kind of large creature hunting other large creatures out around the tower. You had this primitive map provided to you by the goblin prisoner. Basically pointing out a couple of places. Something down here, tower thingy, goblin base. It's like really primitively drawn, and bad thing here,
I'm still thinking we're in some kind of kid's science project.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we're on a map. Like a straight up, like a surface, like a table. And we're on like a corner of the map with the way the sun has moved now. And it doesn't move. It's just like the light above the table.
That's what I'm saying. We're in some kid's science project, and we just went into the it's like multiple things of multiple areas of different people, and we just entered another area.
It's a zoo. We all know it's a zoo. We're in a zoo.
Anyway, and you found the way in between the enclosures? Is that it?
Yes. We're smart monkeys.
Anyway, so you decided to head south. The trip south isn't a too difficult one from where you're traveling currently. As I said, there's this kind of mountain range that does flank you a little bit to your east. But eventually the mountain range will actually give way to water. And the unusual thing about it is, like, as you're traveling around the water and following this kind of like almost coastline, you do not see the edge of the water, which sounds like something that doesn't, or like you don't see the horizon of the water, I almost say. It's almost as if like you'd think like the water would stretch out to the distance. It stretches out for a while, and then it doesn't have that kind of like you're looking across an ocean look. Which probably, I guess really only one of you may have seen. And that would probably be Signy, because of her uprising might have been out to an actual port city one time. So you're the only one that recognizes this ocean or water, body of water, looks weird.
It's not how I imagined an ocean to look, but okay.
Yeah, because Zach, your kingdom was very landlocked, so I had very high doubts that you would have traveled.
I wonder if this water would be any better than what's in our area.
I'm gonna just dip my fingers in it and taste it. Is it like salt water?
It is not
like
salt water. It tastes like fresh water.
Oh, it's drinkable, it seems. I mean, I don't know. Does it look clean?
It looks fairly clean. It doesn't look like sparkling clean. It looks like, I would say, like a clear lake would.
It doesn't look stagnant like the water that was around our
No.
castle originally.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
it's like also when you're kind of close to the water's edge, there are little like, I would call them little waves from like maybe from like wind and stuff, but you also hear what sounds like larger waves and you do not see them.
Odd.
And seems
so metagame. We're on a shelf and there's large waves below and we can't see them.
You just hear it very far in the distance, kind of echoing.
Okay, well, I mean, Chance, you're more of a person that survives in nature than I am. I mean, it looks drinkable to me. Do you think it's drinkable? Okay.
That's the answer. Does it look drinkable?
Alright.
There's only one way to find out. Drink it.
Okay, I'm starting to be drinking a lot of things that I don't know are good for me. And
You're learning how to adventure, Zach.
Can I take a sip and try to like roll a survival check to see if it tastes okay?
Sure. Roll me survival wisdom stuff. All right, Chance, you take a sip of it. I mean, it's no different than any water you would find in any kind of, you feel like, maybe more like a lake somewhere, which you probably have some experience with. It's probably not too dangerous, but you
still might want to boil it.
Yeah, you prefer like something from like an actual moving body of water more than anything.
Right.
Like the water around you guys is unusual, and that's something that you could have pointed out. You know that this water should be fresh, but it is not. It tastes like it's stagnant if you would taste it.
Okay.
Moving water keeps out that kind of taste. This is like a lake is a little better, but it's not perfect.
Right. It's okay to drink in small quantities, but you might want to boil it if you're trying to drink a lot of it.
Okay. Well, at least we got a source of water.
I'm going to fill up my skin.
Okay.
I wonder if it's dangerous to stay near the water with the large creatures about.
Well, if there's large land creatures, there may be large ocean or lake ones or whatever this is.
That's what I'm thinking as well. I don't want to be sitting on the edge and then next thing you know,
Tentacle.
Percival's on his way to the bottom.
What? Why me?
I mean,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push you in.
Sir, why would I be targeted for sir, please? Oh, wow.
It's not so much that you'd be targeted, my young man, but more so that we would probably get out. Well, you wouldn't.
You're less experienced.
Oh. All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So just stay away from the water's edge.
All right, sir.
Might be smart. Yeah. All right. Seeing Chance fill up his water skin, I'll fill up mine as well.
All right. You continue along the lake edge for some time, and at first you kind of follow the edge of the lake. It seems to be definitely has its like little inlets and things like that you kind of have to move around, and you don't see like it still has that same sparsity of trees and stuff. Occasionally you do get these little trees, and they're the trees themselves are like thin, wiry, with like they're kind of like the savanna trees you'd almost see like in the middle of the fields in Africa. I'd more describe them like. So kind of similar to, I guess that's acacia. I think that's the type of tree it is, or something. Okay. I'm not 100% sure.
If there's any branches laying around, I'm going to be collecting them.
If you go under where the trees, you can probably find a few old branches.
Yeah.
Other than that, like there's like a small kind of almost rocky shore and kind of beach area that's maybe like 10, 15 feet before going back into the grass as you're kind of going around this. Your map does tell you can kind of cut off a large peninsula area that if you would follow the shoreline completely, it'd probably be an entire extra day, but instead you could just kind of cross over the land to get to the location. As you kind of gone around the shore from now, you're fairly certain that if you turn southwest from here, you'll get to where you're going to, or at least very close to it.
Are there any weather patterns that we're running into?
The place is windy. There's at least a light wind at all times. You have encountered up to like very severe winds, nothing to impede your travel, but enough to be like, difficult if you were trying to like place things around and things like that. You'd have to be careful, like especially setting up camp. Rain has been a common thing. Like belts of rain. Again, it's the same way that it was in the valley, that there are no clouds, it's just all of a sudden there's rain. Except it seems like with the severe winds and rain, you do hear thunder and see lots of lightning. Something that you didn't experience a lot of, like actual storms back in around your castle. These are seemingly more storms. It feels like a lot like many dangerous storms just kind of roll in. Like every time there's weather, it is severe weather at very least.
So to the point where we have to like stop and take shelter, or shelter. I know there's not much.
Yeah, stopping has been needed a few times, but not every time. Like if it's like a 40-mile-per-hour wind or something, it's kind of horrible, but you can still press on. With like some of the heavy rain has gotten very hard to travel occasionally, things like that. The weather is never nice when it occurs, but it's not always so bad you have to stop.
Okay. Have we rested? Like, have we taken a long rest since?
You probably have. It's probably been at least, I'll say like this is like your second day of travel.
Okay. So hit dice and all that. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright. How much further? Looking at the map. Zach looks at the map and he's not good at like navigating. So he's like, looking in the wrong direction. How much further, Chance or Lady Sydney? Yeah. Sorry, Sydney. Sorry.
Chance kind of like looks it over and is like, you can also roll a survival since you are looking at the map. Zach. You could be like, oh my god. So like you give it to Chance for a second. He's like having trouble. You kind of like look at it, and Chance like I think he's like saying like I think we're here, and then like you're looking at it for a while, and you're like looking around, and then you're like boom, you like realize something.
Okay, no, I straight up put it on the ground and like, oh, this is where we are.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't see the legend in the corner that marked like the distance.
The legend just has like like goblin like little like markers on it, so it's not even like a really good legend or something. Like,
the metric is like claws, not even what, it just says claws. Like, oh, okay, all right, 50 claws. All right,
what the hell does that mean?
All right,
what size are these claws?
Okay. All right. So, how do I get an idea of how much further before we get to this camp?
You think you're probably about halfway there at this point in time.
Oh God.
And that's again if you cut across the land rather than just following the shore the entire way.
All right, we're halfway. This kind of sucks. This area is huge. All right, let's press forward. Is there anyone can think of any need that we divert from our course? Because there is this whole peninsula, but we can.
Well, the thing is, like, you kind of say that you're huge, but all of you then kind of get that in your mind that the fact is that this is like a 4-day journey from one end of this map to like almost the other, while it was over a 4-day journey from your castle to the walls, and your castle's pretty center of the valley, you know?
Yeah.
So this is definitely smaller than your own.
No, it's massive.
Well, that's true. It's still big. I'm not saying it isn't big. I'm just saying it's not as big as where you're from.
Maybe we're just small.
Maybe we got smaller, and the other thing is just like an ant.
It's
like,
never know.
All right, so let's just keep pushing forward.
They're actually just monitor lizards in the background.
Yeah. The sun doesn't set here either, right? Even though it's in different locations.
No, it doesn't.
Is it darker here since it's in a lower part in the horizon?
You have shade in some areas, but like once you passed by the mountain range area, you got away from the shade. Basically, you had some shade for the first parts of your travel. It was still bright because it's sort of like that.
We went from like noon to 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it depends on where. Florida 3 p.m. sucks. So I don't know about all right. Sydney, you need some sunscreen? Kind of.
What seems
Sydney's like red at this point.
What seems different from the area that you came from are some of the creatures you see in this area. Other than the large sauropod dinosaurs, which seem to graze in areas, there are also rhinos that are in actually very large herds. Like herds of like up to like 30 or 40.
Only if Rufus was still here. Let's capture a rhino.
You do see signs of creatures similar to the one that you encountered in the cave, the boule. And there are things in the air around here. You are able to identify 2 species of creatures that seem to hunt in the air. Fortunately, none have gotten near you, but there seems to be griffins that fly in this area, and chimera.
That sucks.
Well, that's a major difference because there was nothing that flew in our area.
You'd have noted that, like, they haven't seemed to fly higher than the mountain ranges that are around you. Because those mountain ranges that are kind of the 2 mountain ranges, because you can see one very far in the distance, which you would say is, like, probably the opposite end of this area. It's like you, like, can look off in the distance, you can kind of see them on the horizon, kind of mountains. And the map shows them.
Right.
Chance, I've heard stories of griffin riders, fairy tales, legends and stuff like that. Is that kind of thing actually possible? Because we are severely lacking mounts in our area.
I would say most beasts can be tamed. I don't know about griffins in particular. I know Rufus was working on trying to make the mantises possibly rideable.
I wonder, can I do some kind of check to know if griffins lay eggs, or if they have, is there something we might be able to steal and then take back with us? I'm not proficient in nature, so.
Oh boy. They have young that you could. Someone roll it. I guess someone roll it. I'll say.
Is it just nature?
Sure.
I'm like blowing in the grass. Like, wow, dude, stop rolling.
Apparently, I like the number 8 tonight.
It's like me last game where I didn't get over 10, but like twice.
Last game I rolled. I rolled okay. This game so far, I rolled 1 good one and 2.
Well, it's something we could bring up. It's something we could bring up when we go back. This could be something very valuable to us.
We could mention it to the well, God, Rufus told me his name. I can't remember.
Green Bitter. Yezeth.
Yes, Green Bitter.
Whoa.
He manages the animals in the castle.
Griffins are pretty big creatures. Could they fit through the passageway?
The Troog can fit through the passageway, and they are also large. Griffins are large too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
they
true.
probably
Those
would.
guys,
okay.
Those lizard people are giants.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a chance even with your 8, you know, that it'd probably be difficult to... You'd have to probably train them here, because convincing a creature, unless you're capturing it very, like, violently, to go through that cave, especially something like that, it would not want to travel underground.
No.
So we knock the fuck out of it, carry it through.
Also, the Troog would probably be like, "You brought us dinner."
Well, we can give him one. Okay, that's something to bring back to the castle. That could be very useful for us. Right now, Chance, you probably know, but the only horses that we have there are the ones that my squadron had from when we fled.
That's why I know Rufus was trying to convince Green Bitter to try to train some giant mantises as war animals.
Well, if this goblin if he's not a moron, which I'm sure he is, at least we found out that could be very useful for us. Granted, I don't know how safe it would be hunting them in these areas. These animals are quite massive.
And we're in the wide open.
And you aren't sure where they nest.
Yes. Yeah. It's something to think about. All right, let's go for it.
Okay. You continue journeying. A couple more days pass, and you begin to once again hit into the lake shore. Now, your estimations were pretty good, but not perfect. You're thinking that you think you're a little bit to the east of where you're trying to head to. So you continue traveling along the coastline for the last little bit, and emerging in front of you as you kind of move around into this one area where there's another kind of small inlet in this coastline, you see signs of civilization, you could even call it. There's a small series of docks and what looks to be the remains of a town next to it. Even at this distance, you can see none are in great shape.
Sydney, does this look anything like the Calida had? Does this look like this is something that it could be their place?
Does it?
From what you saw,
I've never seen the Calida. I've never left the castle.
Yeah, you unfortunately, none of your characters have encountered any level of the Calida's actual civilized areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much, the only thing we probably know about it is whatever said.
He said that basically it's what Rufus's assessment, which you could probably remember, is it was more like that probably those that couldn't fight were left to be farmers, and those that could fight were left out to be hunters in the valley, where it's much more dangerous beyond their walls.
How far away are we from these ruins?
With this kind of, if you continue walking around, because you've kind of been following the lake edge at this point in time, you probably get there in about an hour. As I said, it's like in the middle of this. It's the middle of this like inlet, so it was a little sheltered almost.
If we wish to check it out, I would suggest when we get close for me to scout ahead.
Yeah, that's wise counsel. Can I look around and see if there's any places of cover that we can approach, and not be immediately seen?
Unfortunately, it's pretty flat land. It's a little hilly in this area, a little bit more than normal, kind of giving it a little bit of sheltered area. But I would say the sheltered would just be if something's coming from farther to the north, it probably can't spot it as easy. So maybe large hunting creatures would have a harder time noticing that there's a small village without any walls. At least at this point in time, you see no walls.
Well, it doesn't look like there's a safe way to approach. Do you still feel comfortable going on your own once we get closer?
I can stick to the buildings.
Okay. You let us know when we're a distance away that you're comfortable for us to be, and we'll wait.
No problem. I'd say probably like 100 feet.
Okay. As you get closer, you do begin to notice the number of buildings. It seems to be what probably can be described as maybe a street that seems to lead up to where the docks are. There's about 6 buildings that look to be intact to a level of degree. Various levels of falling apart. And there's one large building kind of off from there towards you, kind of in between you and that row of 6 buildings. Maybe a warehouse of some kind. It's hard to tell what kind of thing that building was used for. You can see that there are 2 ships. One of them seems partially sunk into the water away from the docks, and one of them seems to be sunk at the docks with its masts sticking out, and maybe parts of the ship itself sort of little, like, it looks like it was probably pretty shallow there, so it kind of just sunk almost down. So it's like parts of like the above deck building structures are
stern.
Yeah, like stern and aft are like above.
Yes.
Now the second boat is it completely submerged? The further one out.
The further one out is only like half submerged. It looks like it maybe like sunk one direction and probably hit the bottom and got stuck.
So its butt is in the air, or
it's like at an angle, you know.
And how far out does that look? Does that look swimmable?
Probably swimmable. It's not that far out. As you're kind of getting closer now, you're like within like maybe 500 feet of the large building. You can see that the dock itself seems damaged. There might have been more of it. There seems to be like one main thorough like walkway that enters into the dock, and then it looked like it may have split off into various other places, like one dock from the shore, and then the dock kind of probably snaked out into other secondary docks, almost like a tree.
Lady Sydney, when we were talking to the elves, they mentioned something about some large animal at that lighthouse that you kind of directed them to.
Yes.
Does that kind of creature look like it could live here? Because there's a lot of damage here.
I mean, you're asking the wrong person. I'm not exactly a biologist or whatever studies animals. Wildlife biologist, is that a term that we know?
I'm not an animalist. Yeah.
Biology as a term might exist.
Probably not.
But I'm going to say, if it does exist, it would probably be with, like, scholars, and probably not in the general...
Tim would say that, not you.
Tim would say biologist. You probably wouldn't.
You might say, like,
you,
a
I am a
druid.
noble. I have been taught things.
So am I.
You still might call it, like, rangers or druids. You know, you'd still refer to them as the main people.
Whatever.
Or scholars.
Animalologists.
You might just say, like, scholars, too.
Alright.
Basically. I don't know.
Okay. Does it look, like, just from this distance, I know it's hard to tell, but does it look damaged from, like, attacks or just deterioration?
At this time, even at this distance, it's hard to tell. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll mention at the chance and say that's something we should check out. We don't want to be anywhere near the water if there's something in the water that's even remotely close to the size of the creature we saw that Sydney saw previously.
Agreed.
Alright. So you're kind of coming up to the large building, and it does not look like the side you're coming on has an entrance.
That's fine. I'm going to move up and then start sneaking around, just in case there's anything in the area.
Okay.
Come on, not an 8 on... Well, I can't roll an 8 on stealth, at least.
Yes. Okay, oh my god, yeah, you're very stealthy.
I disappear.
You can kind of move up and see that moving around this kind of large building, you can see that on the other side from where you're entering seems to be a doorway. The front door, this door to this is wide open. So you can kind of like easily like kind of like peer inside if you wanted to. You do see there are a number of buildings. You can kind of get a better view of the buildings on the road here, the main thoroughfare, as I kind of was describing it. Also,
I also want to keep my eyes open and see if I notice any recent tracks.
Sure. This place has less grass than a lot of areas, so it seems more well trodden. It's hard to say how, if anything's necessarily recent. There does look to be some tracks in the area.
Anything that looks humanoid.
Maybe. But
Okay.
there's a lot of unusual creatures around here, so it's hard to tell. So there's the large building, which on the other side the front door is open. Of the 6 buildings, one seems to be much smaller, kind of almost shack-like, and closer to the dock edge.
I laugh after Chance is gone for like 15 minutes, and I just look at Sydney and go, "Couldn't you have just sent your dragon?"
Yeah.
You're muted.
I always forget. Oh yes, we could have, but I would rather risk him than Fafnir.
All right, that's fair. Could you at least maybe have him go up so we can keep an eye on Chance, so if something happens, we know?
Sure, just tap me if we're getting attacked, please. I'll send Fafnir up to keep watch.
Okay. So Fafnir will come and kind of hover over it. So as I said, this is going from there's these 2 rows of 3 buildings basically that seem to be intact. You actually, okay. You do notice that on the row closest to you, there is the very small remains of a 4th building, basically like a little bit of the foundation left almost. As the first one was the kind of shack building. The second one seems to be relatively intact building. The third one, it looks like it's mostly collapsed on itself. It might still have some parts of it intact. The second row, kind of across this old thoroughfare, closest to the water, has a building that has this like sign which has a bed and a mug next to it.
I wonder what that is.
The building next to that looks like it's burnt out, as if it had been on fire one time. And then there's another intact building next to that one.
Now, are these all made of wood?
They all seem to be made of wood. You can see at this point in time, because of the way you've come down, that beyond there, you do see what looks to be maybe like a small wall of some kind on the other side of, over on the other side of the row of buildings, the other row of buildings, the second row of buildings.
The building I'm at, does the wood seem like it's rotting, or does it seem to be in okay shape?
The large building, you mean?
Yeah.
It seems in pretty decent shape. It seems fairly well intact, as just like looking on it from the outside.
I'm just like feeling the wood. I just wanted to make sure it doesn't feel like it's about to fall apart.
Yeah, no. It's not like a very tall building. Like overall, it's maybe actually kind of when you look at it, it does seem to be like a shorter than the buildings that are like nearby. So it's maybe only like 1 story high, I definitely would say.
Right. Well, that at least tells me this isn't like ruins from hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
No, as a wooden building, it is still intact, and that's kind of...
Right. That's what more I'm getting at was, do these seem like ancient structures that are about to fall down, or structures that are relatively, not horribly old?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'm going to sneak around to the front door and look in.
Okay. Give me perception, then. You can see that this building is has seemingly taken some damage, actually. Now that you kind of look in, it looks like the roof has taken a little hits here and there. There's some cracks and holes, but none of them are particularly large. It still seems to be holding. The room is filled with all kinds of wrecked tables. A few small plants are kind of sticking up in places where the light is coming through the holes in the roof. It's kind of a musty, dirty room. You do notice something that is not well hidden, and does not seem to have noticed you, though. There seems to be kind of like a pile of these tables has been moved together to almost make this primitive nest, and a chimera is just kind of sitting in the center of it.
Okay, I'm going to move away.
Mm-hmm. The doors are definitely large enough for it to get in and out of, kind of thing, because it's like a set of double doors that are wide open.
Yeah, I'm going to start moving back to the group.
Okay.
And once I'm decently enough away, I'll start moving quicker.
Sure.
Guys, the village seems...
Oh, one second. I'll just tap Sydney.
I saw him coming back. I'm out of it.
She probably had Fafnir following back, and then is like, okay.
I still tap her. Oh, okay, you're here. Okay.
God, I want to punch you so hard right now.
I mean, you can if you want. What do you have?
The village seems abandoned of people, but animals have seemed to make a nest there. I saw one of the chimera in the large building there has a nest of tables. It didn't spot me, I don't think.
What do we know about chimeras?
Knowledge nature?
Nature check.
Sure. Zach, let's see what you know about chimeras. Chance.
What the hell? Is... Well, no. What is it with any like knowledge roll? Is knowledge survival 8s?
Okay. Zach, a few things that you know about it. It's a creature with multiple heads. It has a kind of like a dragon head, a ram head, and a lion head. And it sort of has all three of them.
Cool.
The ram head, it can attack with all three of them almost. The dragon head can breathe fire.
Ouch. Okay.
That's pretty much all you know about them. They're relatively dumb. They're like animals, pretty much.
Okay, so it wouldn't hoard. Like we can't expect a horde in there. Like
no. At most, if it ate one of the people that formerly lived here or something, or ate someone else, because you do know that there are like goblinoids in the area. If it had gotten one of them, it could have drug it back to the nest and they could have treasure, but it would be incidental treasure if it has anything like that.
Yeah, I'm more thinking about like just evidence and clues and information.
Yeah.
Than treasure.
Then it would be incidental stuff that it would have with it.
Chance, can we trap it so we can search the town? You said it was bunkered in, right?
It's hiding in some tables that it piled up.
But inside a building, or
inside a building, yes.
Is there?
But we don't. I also didn't search the other buildings.
I see. So you don't know if there's more. Okay.
And the roof was damaged but holding. So even if we could close the doors or something and bar them, it doesn't mean it might not be able to break out that way.
But we might be able to use the roof to collapse onto it. If we have to. There's something of importance in this stupid area because the stupid goblin made it put it on the map. We can't.
The goblin could have also just put it here because it was something of just general interest. There doesn't seem to be a lot out here. So any kind of structure might be put on a map.
Knowing goblins, if it's shiny, they'll probably like it. So.
Exactly.
Do you guys think we should press on, or we should search? I mean, I don't know. If the three-headed monsters seem a bit risky for.
We don't know if any of the other buildings have creatures in them as well. It does seem that the wildlife has taken over this town. Although I did see a small wall in the distance.
Small wall? What do you mean? Like on the other side of town?
Yes.
I'd describe it, if you're describing it, I think as a half wall.
Half wall. Okay.
Yeah. That's what it looked like, but you weren't close enough to get a very good full description.
Maybe we could head towards that. Just be quiet and try to avoid getting too close to the buildings.
We can try it.
We could also wait here and watch and see if these creatures have hunting habits and go in when they leave. If we don't want to risk walking through. And I look dead at Master Dwarf over there, who was super loud last time when we were trying to sneak by. If we don't want to take the chance of trying to sneak past, we might be able to wait them out.
I mean, I could attempt. I could attempt to try to check out the other buildings if you wish. I would just stay away from that door.
Yeah, I would wait. I would hate for us to have come all this way and taken this chance. For
rolls my eyes.
For nothing. If there's something here and we miss it, no one else is gonna find it. We're the only hope. No one's gonna come this far out. The Duke barely let me come out this far. The only reason is because I was able to argue enough with him to annoy him to kick me out.
I mean, we could learn something of these people here, but what people were here, but I'm not sure what. Like I said, I did see one building that did look like an inn. At least once was.
Do you think we all can get closer? I would hate for you to be by yourself if that thing attacks.
As long as you guys can be quiet, I don't see the problem of being closer. I just would stay clear of making any noise around the building or going past that front door.
Okay. How long is the walk back, Tantus?
Again, it's like 500 feet, so not long. Like, you could probably get there within a minute.
500 feet in a minute?
Oh no, not a minute. Like a couple of...
We're Speedy Gonzalez.
We got this, guys!
Well, actually, within a minute is possible if you double time it. So if you
That's not quiet, though.
No, it's not.
All right, but within 10 minutes or so, we could probably make it, right?
Yes, if you're being quiet, definitely you could.
All right, so I can help us be quiet, but we should save it till we get a little bit closer, because it only lasts for a certain period of time. An hour.
Right, what you've done before.
Yes. I think the Earth will aid us.
If you wish, once we get towards the big building, I could navigate around from there. I tend to be the quietest out of us.
It's fine. I just don't want you to be too far from us if we need to rush in.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so let's go. So I guess we'll move in. We're trying to be quiet. Do we actually want to stealth, guys, or just be like slow? Because we're 500 feet away. So, yeah.
I mean, I guess when
500 feet of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think basically when we're like 100 feet or so, then we might want to start.
So within 100 feet, then I will use my racial trait to do pass without trait.
Okay.
Trace. So Zach will do his standard thing when we get within 100 feet. He'll reach down, put his hands on the earth, and mumble something in a weird, like, grinding language. And then it seems like when you guys take steps, the ground almost softens. Pebbles get out of your way so you don't kick them and make any noise.
Okay.
Now, with your ability, do we have to stay in a certain range of you, or
within 30 feet of me?
Okay, so once I scout out ahead,
you'll lose it.
I'll lose it. Okay, that's what I just wanted to check.
Yep.
I'm not too concerned, but
so it's a radius, so you guys don't all have to be. We don't all have to be like super close. But...
Right. I just wanted to know, so once I do start scouting.
Yeah. Once you leave that radius, you'll be on your own. and it lasts an hour. Tantus.
Okay.
So
So where are you heading to first?
follow me, Chance. 29.
There's the 6
Good.
buildings.
23 is pretty good.
There's the
I'm gonna
wall.
just do my regular stealth. I'm not gonna worry about his bonus because I'm gonna be walking away.
No, no. You're within 30 feet of me. That's 39. I don't care what you say.
Well, as soon as I walk away, it's gonna be back to 29.
Yes.
Oh, the horror.
Yeah.
He got what
I'm
got
gonna-
plus 10.
Is there a way to get from one of the sides of the big building to the inn-looking building without passing in front of the door?
Yes and no. You can head straight ahead, which will lead you into the kind of main street, or whatever street it was, which then you will have buildings between you and the main door, but then you would have to, even with those buildings in the way, pass in front of the main door. So something could theoretically spot you, just it would be like as you're passing in between some of the buildings, it might if it's looking out that way, it might see you.
Okay. I'm willing to risk that.
Okay. So you're heading for the inn-looking structure.
Yes. Can I tell from a distance, though, before I get too close to go inside, is the door open or is it closed?
All the doors to these places either look open or slightly ajar.
Okay. Then I will stealth up.
Okay. So the main floor here looks to be some kind of old tavern as you kind of look in. There's definitely a nautical theme to the entire area, and it looks abandoned. There's tables and chairs knocked over. Maybe there was some kind of struggle in here. There's nets, harpoons, fish bones, and looks like some fish jaws all hanging around the sides of it. There does seem to be like a big back wall of alcohol. At one point in time, many of the bottles are broken, but other than that,
I'm gonna go behind the bar and just look around,
okay.
see if there's anything of interest back here.
It looks like a couple of the bottles are intact, might be drinkable if you really want to drink. It also looks to be there's the till for the bar is still here, and there's still a couple coins in it.
Sure, why not? It might actually. Do they have any kind of markings other, like a picture, a face of something?
Good question. Very, very good question. I want you to roll me. Let's see what skill you would use for this one. Give me a second here to figure it out.
Please don't make it wisdom or intelligence based.
Intelligence history. Thank you very much.
I get +1.
Mm-hmm.
17.
All right. The markings on here are actually incredibly unusual. It takes you a while to, when you're thinking about it, to kind of interpret what it really means. You spend maybe half a minute pondering it, but then you begin to realize some things. The lettering here is a language that you're not really familiar with, but you can tell it's some kind of language, and the symbolism seems to be almost unusual in nature, as if it looks like there's almost swaths of a breeze imprinted on it rather than someone's face. This is something, it seems similar to something you heard about in your own lands long ago. Something that this seems different from what you heard about, but it has similarities to, you heard there were people that were touched by elements, and a group of them had formed their own kingdom. Each of them had one of the denominations printed with something after them. This seems similar to that, but it only seems to be of these kind of swafty shapes.
Okay. Like a wind.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to pocket those. I'm going to quietly put two bottles I see are good in the backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And is there stairs up?
Yes.
I'm going to carefully go up the stairs then.
All right. The room is simple. It's not a number of rooms. It seems more like a bunkhouse kind of thing.
Okay.
A lot of old kind of broken down beds, some cots and things like that. All of it in terrible shape. It's one large open room. It looks like there might have been like a small place in the center where you could like a metal kind of basin, where maybe you could put like a little fire on top of that to keep warm up here. So you could have it on the second floor with that kind of metal below it, but all of it's kind of abandoned.
Right. I'm going to take a perception around and see if there's like anything, knickknacks, papers.
Again, like, it looks like the same kind of like nautical theme that was down below seems to kind of follow the theme up here. This looks like maybe that sailors on the boats would come and stay here.
Okay, but nothing to give any more information about the people who might have been here.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, and there was the shack still,
Which is across the road from you. The burned building, which is next to this one on the same side. Also on this side is a intact building. Across the street, the other building that's in front of the doors, other than the shack, is a intact building. And then there's the partially collapsed building.
Okay, I guess I'll go to the other building that's intact on this side.
Okay.
I'm keeping my eye on the big building that Chance pointed out that had the big head thingy guy in it.
Okay.
Yes, please do.
Since I'm assuming that's where we parted. Was
Okay.
somewhere near there.
As Chance is kind of moving out and around, you notice that you can hear movement from inside the building next to you.
I will try to signal Sydney, be like, and point off in that direction to the creature without, making noise and stuff. And then I will point to Percival and just point away. Just go.
Okay, so they'll kind of back up, I guess. Or at least Percival will back up to the other side of the building.
Yeah, I don't know what Sydney's doing. I'm just trying to let her know that I'm hearing stuff. And I'm gonna pull my greatsword out very slowly and try to stay there so I'm in ready position.
I'm just gonna back up a few steps.
Ready player one.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to fireball some bitches.
All right.
You know what's great for barbarians? Flying things. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of lumbering out of the front of the building is this large creature with the lion head and seemingly popping up from its neck. On one side is this goat head and the other is this kind of dragon head. All are kind of looking around, kind of as if they noted something at some point.
Alright, I'm gonna get low and trying to keep out of its vision.
Mm-hmm.
But
you can kind of in the side eye see that Chance is kind of for a second he was enough in the open that you could see he was sneaking into another building.
okay, that he left and went to a different spot. I'm just gonna keep my eyes on the Chimera.
Okay.
Just in case. If I start seeing him head towards where I saw Chance do it, then I'm gonna do something.
Okay. All right. It'll kind of sniff around for a while, kind of then just quickly almost spring up, and in the shadows of one of the buildings, seemingly pounce on something. As you then see it rip out its kind of dig one of its claws into the dirt a little bit, and then you see it pull out something. I would say about the size of a small dog. It looks like almost some kind of rodent creature that was burrowing in the dirt, as it kind of tears it apart quickly.
Okay.
And then it will flex its wings and take to the air.
Alright, I'm gonna keep watching, and when it looks pretty far away, I'm gonna try to guide Sydney and Percival towards where I saw Chance go.
Okay.
Um,
Chance. We
Yes.
will get to what you're finding in a second because let's take our first break.
Of course.
Uh-huh.
Okay, just so you know, Tantus, I'm watching. I have the stream up to look at chat,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw your roll for its perception,
Uh-huh.
and thank God we did pass without a trace.
No. Its passive perception woke it up because a certain dwarf I rolled for. Active perception failed to get that number.
Oh. Oh.
Basically, its passive
You know he has
perception.
disadvantage, right?
Yes. The dwarf
Okay,
had
okay.
disadvantage. And that's why the passive perception noticed something and it woke up. Then it came out sniffing around. And fortunately, that 4 difference between rolling a 10 and a 6 was enough to hide the dwarf. Just
Wow.
barely.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Alright.
So you can see how terribly, with your plus 10, the dwarf got.
I mean, I never know what you're rolling for, unless, we're in battle, then it makes
Uh-huh.
sense. But
Oh, Percival had a really good roll too, yeah. So.
I was gonna ask, should I be rolling for him? Do you want to give me like a character sheet so you don't have to manage him?
No, I rolled for him. It's fine. I figured I'm just gonna use him as a basic NPC, so some simple rolls. I'll roll a
I figured.
Yeah. So I mean, he's like Squire.
Level 0,
Yeah.
commoner.
Yeah. But anyway, so quick break. If you need to use the restroom, quickly run to it. If you need just a snack or a drink and because you're out of them, quickly get them. Come on back. We'll be back in a few minutes. And we'll continue with Chance checking out this place, and some people are going to be catching up to him in a second. So,
Yes.
see you in a second, folk.
More.